Well, good afternoon. Yes, I'm back. Apologies for the bit of extended hiatus there from posting any videos, and sorry for kind of just dropping off the side of the planet. And thanks to those of you who reached out to ask if I was okay. Your thoughts and concern very much appreciated. So, where have I been? Well, there's been a couple of things going on that have prevent is the wrong word, but have kind of influenced me not being able to make any videos. First and foremost, as I alluded to weeks back, I had to get myself a little part-time job. Now, I'm going to have to look up the term part-time because the job has been taking a heck of a lot of my time. I took on a role that was a 20-hour a week shift, which I thought was going to be great, give me a nice balance of, having time to still do the photography. As it transpires, and it sounds like can be pretty much the case across all of retail, I'm doing a heck of a lot more hours than 20, and that's wonderful. It's been great to be kept busy, and I really enjoy the job. But it is a very manual job. I'm certainly on my feet all day, and you're lifting and moving things around, and so either before a shift or at the end of a shift, the last thing I feel like doing is picking up the camera and going out with it. Now, the shifts that I do give me 1 or 2 days off a week, never the same days, and very rarely would they be one after the other. But of course, that would still allow me to have at least 1 full day or 2 full days a week out with the camera. But in all honesty, I have been just keeping the camera to one side, just focusing on sort of working, and then the days that I'm off, just literally having a little bit of sort of relaxation, R&R, not really sort of thinking too much about creating any content. We have also had, as I think most of the UK has had, an absolutely just couple of months weather-wise. And it's not even a case of it being stormy, and we had a couple of days where the light was nice, but it's just a bit like today. It's just generally flat, mundane, bleh. And so it wasn't really motivating me to get out with the camera. So that is really two of the main reasons why I've not been producing any content. Now, as I have commented on this channel before, something I realized, a year or so ago, that there is a direct correlation between my productivity and my creativity and my mental health, my kind of well-being, my state of mind. And so while I was giving myself the freedom to not pick up the camera and not feel guilty about not picking up the camera, because of course I was busy sort of doing this other job, slowly but surely the lack of time behind the camera, the lack of anything creative in my life really started to have an impact. And of course that then snowballed, and days where perhaps the odd day where the weather perhaps was approaching something that might make a nice image, I was in a little bit of a funk. So kind of contributed to why I haven't really been picking up the camera. But I do feel as though I'm starting to get that motivation back to pick the camera up again and to start being creative. Now, that's not something that I think you can turn on and turn off with a tap. I think the muse, as David Duchovny calls her, creativity, that fickle mistress, she doesn't kind of just turn herself on and off willy-nilly, and I'm under no illusions that time away from the camera, like any discipline, time away from the track, time away from the gym, time away from anything that you're sort of practicing, it takes a while to get back into that again, and that's okay. And in fact, just this past week, in fact, last week, we took the van down to Donegal, stayed at a campsite down in Melmore Head, and I just had my little Fuji X100T out with me, and it was a very miserly sort of day, very Hebridean light actually going on, but it was just lovely for the first time in about 6 weeks to make an image. In fact, how I knew that my creativity levels had plummeted to an all-time low. Normally my iPhone camera roll is fit to burst with just images of everything, sort of pictures of the typical landscapes, just pictures of abstract scenes, light, shadows, my food, selfies, whatever. And there was, in the last 4 or 5 weeks, there was just no images on there, one or two images. So that's how I knew that my sort of creativity levels had really plummeted, and it was just so nice to just go back outside again and just start sort of making some images again with the old Fuji X100T, which by the way I got a new battery for, and it's now lasting for an acceptable amount of time. So I'm looking forward to getting back out with, still to date, my favorite Fujifilm camera. Now, there were a couple of other things that kind of have been going on in the background as well that influenced sort of my state of mind and my direction going forward. Not least, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I started to see a couple of photographers that I followed on social media putting their images up on NFTs, the whole digital art side of things. Now, I am not going to profess to be in any way an expert or even very knowledgeable in the whole NFT world. Suffice to say, however, I still think that the jury is still very much on the negative side in terms of the environmental impact that dealing in NFTs, in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrency has on the environment. And it almost seemed as though there was a panic rush for everyone because they saw the potential for selling images for a huge amount of money or cryptocurrency. And all of a sudden we had a real panic rush for people putting their images up there. Now again, I'm saying this from a layman's terms, but I just felt as though that a lot of the landscape and wildlife photographic community, it almost felt to me as if they were selling out a little bit. Now, you could point to me and say, Nigel, you're sitting in a diesel combusting van and you're driving around and maybe you're going to be flying off in planes. I get that, I get that. And we do try to offset as much as possible with various bits and pieces. But aside to that, it just felt as though the whole love of the landscape was put to one side to make a quick buck. So I started to unfollow a lot of people on social media because it was making me quite angry, and I don't need anything to make me, I don't need additional things to make me angry. There's enough things in this world that make me angry already. Now that actually got me thinking about social media and the impact it was having on my own sort of sanity. About 4 months ago, I removed Twitter from my iPhone, and it was one of the best decisions I had ever made. I actually removed Facebook from it several months ago. I still have accounts, and I started to schedule my Twitter posts. So basically, a post at 7 a.m. in the morning and a post at 7 o'clock at night. And what this allowed me to do was to still maintain a presence on Twitter, but without having to go in and sort of interact with it. Now, that was all fine and dandy up until about a month ago, when I found that I'd started to creep back into daily Twitter usage and daily Instagram usage. And it just is, for me anyway, fair play to you if you're making social work for you, but for me anyway, it just felt like meaningless cycles, kind of just, and not even from the, oh, I want to be noticed with my images, but even forget about me posting on social media, just endless scrolling. And I found myself, even though I'd removed it from my phone, and so the only access I had was via the desktop, and of course Instagram especially can be quite cumbersome on the desktop, I was still logging in. Every time I logged in, I was going to Twitter, I was going to Instagram, and losing 10-15 minutes at a time. And it was actually where my phone is. We're in the process of learning Spanish. We have been for quite a while on Duolingo, And I noticed the little sort of thing it said, what can you gain with 15 minutes on social media versus what can you gain on something like Duolingo. And it's absolutely true, because I don't really notice those 15-20 minutes that I do on a daily basis with Duolingo. And now I would say that I'm at the more fluent in Spanish than I've ever been in my life. And this is someone who also went to Spanish classes a couple of years ago. So I made the decision. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I actually made the decision to remove myself from social media, from Facebook, from Instagram, and from Twitter. Now, I still have the accounts there, but I will no longer be posting to those platforms. I've also logged out those 3 platforms, and Nicola has changed my password, and I obviously then don't have access to that. Now, it's been a week. There's the odd time I'll sit down behind the computer and I'll go TWIT. Nope, don't need to go to Twitter. And of course, even if I were to go there, I would be logged out and couldn't get in. So say this is not a rant on social media. If social media is working for you, then great. It's just it wasn't working for me on a whole number of levels, and so I've decided to take a step back. I read an article about a month ago that had a profound impact on my kind of outlook going forward. And it was all to do with, now I've mentioned this before, one of the biggest anxieties that I have, and it's something that has kind of built up over the last couple of years especially, is my own mortality. Now, I know this is a very difficult subject to talk about, and in fact it's an almost impossible subject to broach with many, because we as a human species, I don't think, no matter how blasé people will say, oh, I don't really think about that. I think the reason is because it does terrify us, irrespective of your religious beliefs. But it was actually, on the flip side to that, something that I read that I hadn't even really considered. And that's the fact that I'm a miracle. I am. I'm a miracle. And here's the thing. So are you. The chances of me actually, this version of me actually sitting here in this seat, talking to this piece of electronic equipment, and inside there are, well, probably 4 of you. It's a miracle. Apparently it's something like a 1 in 400 trillion chance that this version of me even exists. The version of you even exists. Just take into consideration the fact that for me to be here, my mum and dad had to have met, had to have got together, and on that particular, night, day, whatever, trying to think about it too much, I was conceived. Even just thinking about the whole millions upon whatever sperm, half of me, swimming the fastest to create me. But then, for my parents to be there, the exact same thing had to have happened for their parents. And for my grandparents, their parents. And so we go right the way back through our whole family lineage. And that's where my head kind of just went, unbelievable. And yet here we are. And a 1 in 400 trillion chance. And most of us, let's face it, waste that chance. And I have certainly wasted far too many cycles. Far too many cycles in scrolling through social media, getting myself head up over things that don't need to be head up about, not spending time outdoors, appreciating every moment. And I'm not about to just go off hippy dippy and dance down the road and say everything's wonderful. Absolutely not. But at the same time, it's about making the most of not only this 1 in 400 trillion chance that I'm actually here, this version of me. I wonder if another version of me had been created, would they have been a better photographer? Oh, that's depressed me even more. The other version of me is a better photographer. Anyway, more subscribers. And so taking that 1 in 400 trillion chance. Oh, hang on. Something's just arrived. 2 minutes. Ooh. Ooh. Right, we won't talk about this for a while, but it has got something to do with something else that I'll talk about later in this vlog. So this 1 in 400 trillion chance of this version of me even being here, I don't want to waste that. And so, as grateful as I was to the job and my getting that employment for that sort of 4 months, I actually went in and said to them, I'm leaving. And my last day is in about another 3 or 4 days' time. I'm actually working this evening from 6 to midnight. Bonus. I'll be sorry to leave, I really will. But I know that I need to be out there doing something more creative. As difficult as that is from a financial point of view, almost impossible it is from a financial point of view, but more so than that, I really still do believe that my life at this point in time is about travel. Travel, remember that? And being creative. And so I'll be leaving the little job in about a week's time. And we have plans. Now, I'm not going to mention the plans just yet, and that's kind of what this package was partly about. We have plans that we're hoping to start mid-July, and we're probably going to be on the road for, well, until the end of the year. In fact, if everything works out as it's supposed to work out, and who knows with the current situation, but we hope, the backstory being that obviously last February 2020, we did spend the previous 3 years on the road, as you hopefully will have seen from both the photography vlogs and the travel vlogs. We spent a lot of time on the road, but we always were coming back to our flat, spending sort of 3 or 4 months time here, 3 or 4 months time on the road. Our goal from the last 10 years, or our dreams for the last 10 years, has been to go full-time travel. And when we lost Guinness last year in February, that was our chance to go full-time travel. But of course, 2 weeks later, a certain situation developed and we all got locked in our boxes. Well, we now feel that we're starting to be able to sort of dip our toes. Certainly not worldwide, despite the positive news that are going on here in the UK. I think it's going to take quite a while for other countries to catch up and to make it sort of pain-free sort of travel across the world. But that said, we do believe that there is an opening for us to be traveling now. And so for mid-July, we are hoping to be, we have an 8-week slot planned, followed by probably a week here back in Portrush, followed by another 8-week slot planned as well. All of it in the van at the moment, and we are hopeful that by the end of those 2 sort of 8-week slots, that we will be in a position from a health perspective and from a sort of global perspective that we'll actually be able to flick the switch on a full-time life on the road. But mid-July, we're hitting the road and taking you with us. I'll still be producing the photography vlogs, and I probably will be producing a few travel vlogs as well over on our travel channel. But that's from mid-July, 8 weeks on the road, followed by a week or so back here, followed by another 8 or so weeks on the road again. So looking forward to that, and of course bringing you along for the good, the bad and the cake. So I think that's everything. Where I've been, what I've been up to, working hard, the fact that creativity really is, when it's missing from my life, I really do feel myself slipping back into a pretty dark and not very nice place. And so, given my 1 in 400 trillion chance of actually being here, I really do believe that I owe it to myself to chase after that creativity, chase after travel, and try to build myself back up again from a creative point of view and from an experience point of view. I am thankful and grateful that we're in a position where we're able to do this. It's not going to be easy, and of course it's been nice having the extra income over these last sort of 4 months. And I say I really enjoyed working where I've been working. It's been really good fun, really great bunch of people. But I really do believe now is our opportunity, our time to get going and start living our lives as we had hoped to. So, right, well, no images or anything, or I might throw up a couple of bits and pieces at the end of this, but I just really wanted to provide everyone a little update on the channel, what's going on. The chances are, because between the next, I'm recording this and it's the 29th of June, I probably won't record any more in the field stuff while we're still here at home base, not least wrapping up things at work, obviously needing to get lots of stuff organized for the van, saying goodbye to friends and family and bits and pieces like that. I may record one more vlog, just sort of talking a little bit about what I'm packing for it and packing for the trip and everything. But there probably won't be any more from the field until we get to our next destination. And at some point, I'm sure I'll also talk about this as well. Ooh, and he almost drops it. Right guys, well, once again, thanks a lot for sticking around, and especially those who checked in to check up on me. That was very much appreciated. And I guess if I don't speak to you talking about packing, which let's face it is probably very boring, I'm taking cameras with me, probably some cake. So if I don't speak to you before then, we'll see you on the road from some other location that isn't Portrush. And until then, thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.